Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business. Today, I'm talking to drone expert and pilot Alex Baker. Alex has worked as a drone pilot on television shows, films, adverts, corporate videos, and documentaries. He's droned on land and at sea and also works as a camera operator. If you're looking to get your drone pilot's license, this is a real insight from someone who is an expert in their field. We talked about the logistics of getting your drone license, how to get the best out of your shots, and also advice for dealing with a drone pilot on your own productions. Enjoy. So for people who don't know, because I'm thinking mainly it might be a student or somebody who's decided to start their own business and thinks this is something that they're passionate about, really excited about drones, that kind of stuff. So what qualifications would you need? What's the minimum you need to fly a drone commercially?
The regulations have changed a little bit recently. I've just had to do a conversion course. I think the minimum you need is an A2 CFC, which is not a particularly difficult thing to get. You need that when we're saying flying commercially. This is a grey area. A lot of people struggle. You know, if you're doing a photograph for an estate agent and he gives you a bottle of wine, then that's a payment. So you should have the qualification. Your craft should be registered anyway, and it's good. It's vital to know the rules, and where you should and where you shouldn't fly, and what you should fly over, and what And then we have the sub 250 gram, which kind of people go, oh, I can do anything, and that's been really quite damaging. The rule book gets thrown out the window. But I mean, I took the course with Euro USC, who are no longer with us, back in 2012 or early 13. So it's a good 10 years ago, and things have changed, but not really. It's the same kind of rules that we have to worry about, 400 feet up above ground level, and 500 meters out. Those are the two that you want to stick to. And then a lot of people struggle with the visual line of sight. So flying a drone and looking down at the controller the whole time is not visual line of sight. And the issue that we have with the small drones, the sub 250, is I defy anyone to see that thing at 200.
I've been on a shoot before, and I've no concept. The drone guy's got it up, and I'm just like, I can't see it. Do you know what I mean? It's just gone, and he knows where it is, but it takes me a while to even find it in a perfect clear sky. So I can't imagine. If it's you've got to keep an eye on it, haven't you?
Yeah, I do a little bit of training, and that's one thing that I teach people is, things, little tricks to regain orientation if you're a long way out. But, the software's so good these days, the drones are so clever that, they'll get you out of so much. And that, unfortunately, breeds complacency. It's like the thing's going to tell me when the battery's running out, so I don't need to know. It'll come back and land next to me, so I don't need to worry about it. And people start to rely on those things. So it's good to fly without it all.
Yeah. So the course, as I understand, is you can do it online now. So you can do the course online, and is it a multiple choice test at the end, something like that? Then you get your qualification.
Multiple question. Yeah.
And you reckon, how long would that take you, do you think, if you were starting from scratch on that course?
You could probably spend a few days over a couple of weeks and learn it inside out. Right. I mean, at the moment, I currently have a US drone license, and I also have a Canadian drone license, as well as the UK. And the tricky thing about that is that it's all slightly different, worded slightly differently, and slightly different rules. So I've managed to do all three of those, retake the new GVC, the UK one, to update my qualification. I did the Canadian one back in June or something, and I did the US one about a year before that. So they're not hard. They're not meant to be not meant to be hard. They want you to pass it, but they just want you to show that you have read and understood. I'm sure there's some people that struggle. I know one or two people that have failed and have decided not to, and they're usually people that just struggle to sort of retain the information, I think.
And just what I was going to ask you next, which you sort of covered there, was that license is just for the UK, is it? Or can you use it in Europe? Or is there another test for that? How's that work?
Yeah, it's just for the UK. There are some countries, please don't quiz me on which ones, but there's some countries that your UK license kind of gives you, you've got to let them know what you're up to.
Yeah.
I remember somebody saying to me many years ago that you are in essence kind of seen as a spy. If
Right,
you're turning out as a British citizen, turning up in a foreign country with something that can fly and take video or data, you might only be there to take some nice pretty pictures of a film set, but actually you could be there in a very devious guise, and so being above board, telling the right people, the right authorities what you're up to is absolutely the right way to go about it. And everything is fine till it goes wrong. When it goes wrong, are you insured? Are they going to put you in prison in Spain? Who knows? Don't risk it.
Yeah, good advice. And just the last thing on the licenses and all that stuff. So that license you get, your first license you get, is there one above that? I'm assuming that, does it go up on weight and then you've got the massive ones with loads of blades on them, or how's that work?
Yeah, the number of blades doesn't govern anything.
Okay.
It's sub 25 kilograms.
Yeah.
That's all up maximum takeoff weight. So it's not like here's the drone and it weighs 25 kilograms and then we put on 5-10 kilograms of batteries and camera. That's a complete takeoff weight.
So what's the next? Do you have to do another exam to go up after that?
Yeah, after that it's beyond visual line of sight, so BVLOS, and you've also got things like reduced distances. So when we take off, you're normally governed to a minimum distance of 30 meters from uninvolved people, and then 50 meters once you're in the air. And you can reduce that. So if you were filming in the center of London or you're doing a roof inspection, you could go 250 gram and reduce that. So under 250 gram, where they deem it as unlikely to do much harm to anyone. But just say you've got 25 kilogram craft and you want to fly within 5 meters of uninvolved people, then you've got to write a safety case and submit it to the CAA. And there's a lot of work in that. So there's an operational safety case. There's also beyond visual line of sight. So how far I can fly the thing. What else is, and then there's over 25 kilograms where you start getting into serious bits of kit. I don't work with or know anybody that flies anything over 25 kilograms that's not linked in some way with the military.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So a Predator drone is over 25 kilograms and it's flying a lot further than 400 meters away.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's me getting the logistics and the license stuff out of the way. What would be your advice for someone just starting out? And something I've noticed people do, and maybe this is because I'm looking at rushes, maybe everybody does this, is people who aren't as good at it, you'll see, so I do a lot of videography on the water, filming boats, stuff like that. What you'll see a beautiful camera shot, and then halfway through something will move and completely ruin the shot. The camera will twerk or whatever, something will happen. Is that common? Am I just seeing rushes, or is that something you sort of learn to smooth all of that stuff out the more you do it?
Do you know, it's something that really bothers me. I don't know whether the general public necessarily pick up on it
Mm.
as much as someone in the industry
Yeah.
that's kind of looking for that stuff. Um, but I mean, there's an advert for, I think it's Citroen, and they're tracking the car along a beautiful like mountain
Mm.
path, and then just in the last half a second, there's a little
Little
jerk,
twitch. Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, now surely the person who's editing that is going to say, well, let's come back, a couple of frames and let's put it all, you know,
Mm.
why wouldn't you? I don't know how that gets through. I
Yeah.
don't know how that happens. I don't know why it happens, and it frustrates me really, really badly.
Yeah.
All you can all you can really do is you can't trim your rushes
Mm.
before they go before they're submitted. You're just handing over the data at the end of a shoot, so you can continue to fly the camera for as long as humanly possible. That would be my tip. So some of my work is controlling the drone camera rather than the drone.
Mm.
And believe it or not, that in a lot of cases is harder than flying. So if you can imagine the drone is moving and your subject is moving, if we're flying past a big mansion, it's not difficult.
Mm.
There's software, you just track it if you really wanted to. Never quite looks natural, but you could. If you're tracking something that's moving and you're gaining on it and you're flying past it and you're rotating down it, it's really difficult. And if you've ever tried it, you need quite a lot of dexterity, and you need to be thinking way ahead. But
Yeah.
also you need to be really, really communicating with your drone operator, drone pilot.
Mm.
I don't like calling them pilots. I don't call myself a pilot.
Oh, really? Okay.
I've started my PPL. I've flown helicopters, full size real helicopters, and
Mm.
I think it's a bit of an insult to say
Oh,
drone
yeah.
pilot.
Maybe. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Somebody
Mm.
who flies a jumbo jet is a pilot
Yeah.
and deserves to be a pilot. I think in the industry we're too quick to say I'm a drone pilot. No, you're a drone operator, really,
Yeah.
in my book. Maybe I'm being humble or something. I don't know, but yeah. So how do you avoid it? Try your best not to do it. If you're a single operator, then just keep flying your camera out of the shot. That's all I can really
I
suggest.
was gonna say, when I get those rushes back, I'd almost rather lose the thing and have a shot I can use. So go over the boat and lose it, go over the car and lose it, than try and get it and see some sort of jerky movement that ruins the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be
yeah.
preferable for me anyway if I'm getting rushes.
Well, as the camera operator, if I've got something in the middle, which never happens to me, of course, but if I had a little bit in the middle, I'd say, we need to retake that.
Mm.
We need to
Mm.
redo that. I can't. That's no good to anybody. You know, we're normally looking at 3-4 seconds. That's all we really need to manage. But let's shoot for 10, 15, so that you there might be a reason why you want something particularly in a position, unless you've got a director looking over your shoulder. You don't really know 100% if you're not editing it, what they're going to need to get. So just over deliver.
Yeah.
is the key.
Yeah. So thinking about somebody who's just starting out, can you give us an idea, or I mean, obviously you've progressed a lot further than this now. How much could somebody just starting out expect to earn, do you think, for doing a day's work droning? So I've got my license, I've got a bit of experience. What do people charge?
In what industry?
I'd say if you were starting out, you'd probably be doing it for online. Probably say you were doing it for a small business. What would you suggest that person charge?
Okay. I think somebody once told me as much as you can get away with without laughing.
That's a good bit of advice. Yeah. Or turning red.
But
Yeah.
So when you have no show reel, when you have no experience, you're not gonna charge a great deal. Try not to do it for free. There's a lot of temptation, that happens a lot. And okay, do it a few times, mates rates for somebody to get yourself that show reel. But what I see is, I see new people in the industry saying, look what I've done, and it's shocking. It's terrible. And there you can see straight away that the gap between taking a photo for an estate agent of a house to producing something that's going to look good even online, social media, is a mile apart. So stick time, really spend every minute that you can flying that drone. And the second thing is understand the craft, not the drone craft. I mean, the craft of filmmaking, framing, understand your shutter speeds, understand what ND filters do, what's the difference between 4K and 1080. There's so many things that you've got to learn that don't involve flying the drone. Flying the drone is the easy part, really. When you're operating just the camera and somebody else is flying the drone, now you're thinking about specifically about, am I starting and stop record? Are we actually flying and get carried away? Is this all being recorded? Are we exposed correctly? Are we in log or rec 709? Do I overexpose slightly in log? Am I going from looking into the sun to looking in the shade? Can I split the difference, or can I not do that shot? And then where's my subject going? There's so much to think about. And you also need to direct your drone pilot. So I've worked with guys operating the camera for me, and they've said, a crew have gone, oh, we've got a runner who's really good at Xbox, and he'll be great.
Yeah.
And then what he does is he looks into the shade, into the hoodman, and goes deathly silent. Like, speak to me. Come on, tell me what's going on. Tell me to be higher, faster, lower, whatever. Just give me some, shout at me. I don't care.
Yeah.
So that's what I tend to do when I'm working with drone operators. But if you're talking about a single operator and you want to get it, you want to be filming stuff with a drone, then just get out there, learn to edit, take a ton of stuff, watch as many YouTube tutorials as you can, and figure out, what do I have to do at night? What do I have to do when it's really bright with an ND filter to bring my shutter speed? All these things will mean that you get the best out of your drone, the best possible settings for that drone, and how you adjust them. What does an aperture do to your shot? Once you understand all those things, coming from a photography background or a videography background, I'm a cameraman as well. You understand all that stuff, and you know what your customer, production company, is looking for. So yeah, and it takes a while.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you actually, because I noticed you do camera operate as well, and I was wondering if that was is that a choice because that gives you more options for jobs you can do, or is that something you're interested in? And I was going to ask you if you recommend somebody do that as well, but it sounds like that's kind of integral to getting the best out of your drone stuff.
I think yes, it interests me, and yes, it helps with work. But I think it's actually a product of the industry. It's fairly well documented that we had a massive race to the bottom in, oh my goodness, what years are we talking? Probably pre-pandemic. 2015, 16, 17, those sort of years. We went to a point where suddenly people who were an IT consultant one minute suddenly come out of the office and bought a drone, invested all their savings into being a drone operator, and didn't really have a clue what they were doing. But there were people taking advantage and saying, you know, yeah, you'll come for free, great, come for free. So the prices took a massive dive. And then post-pandemic, if you can offer a production crew, okay, I'm going to film for you all day long and we'll get a drone shot while we're there, then it's a massive added bonus.
Yeah.
And drone shots have become less used. You know, there was a point where drone shots were everywhere on everything, and there was too much of them. You know, a drone shot needs to give a wow and show location, whether it's bake off the tent or whatever it might be. If you go drone shot, drone shot, drone shot, drone shot, then they lose that wow. So I think they're used more sparingly these days, to be fair. So, you know, if you book in a shoot and you say, yeah, we want an establisher, we want a big wide of what's going on, and we might want to follow a car a lot as it arrives, but other than that, we want you behind the sticks, you know, that works perfectly for them. If you are just saying, okay, I can fly the drone and then I'll sit around and, you know, charge you my day rate and I'm not going to do anything else, you know, you're not as employable, obviously.
Yeah. And I would say when I book freelancers, the first question I say is, oh, can you drone? Have you got a drone? And I don't mind if it costs me more, but I know that they've got that in the bag should we want to chuck it up and just get, like you say, that establishing shot, the beauty shot. It just gives me more options when I come to edit.
Yes. And a cameraman is going to understand the settings on the drone.
Yeah.
You would hope. So he doesn't have to be a good drone operator. He can just fly that. He can lock it onto a target, do a little orbit around something. You get a nice drone shot. He's exposed it properly, given it to you in the same color profile as the camera, etc., etc. You can edit all together. Looks lovely, and you haven't paid £300, £400, £500, £600 for a drone operator who's there for 20 minutes.
Definitely
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about, so I saw this FPV first person view drone where you put the goggles on and you're sort of in the drone, so to speak. But I've not had any experience of that at all. How does it work? Does that mean, do you still need a spotter? Do you use it for commercial stuff or is it just for fun? Tell me about it, because I know nothing about that.
It started as fun for me. It's the coolest thing ever. It shouldn't be legal. It's like it's like crack for drone pilots. You feel like you're in it. It's like a VR game.
Yeah.
And it basically has come from racing drones. So they had these awful goggles, so like Fat Shark goggles, where it was all snowy and it broke up and blah blah blah, and you could see what you're doing, but very low latency. And then when we went to the HD and DJI brought out these wonderful goggles, suddenly I started putting cameras on everything, you know, planes and helicopters and cars and drones. And I mean, my fastest little drone goes from 0 to 120 mile an hour in, you know, I don't know, half a second. It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, Tesla, they accelerate fast. This weighs nothing and it's electric motors. And the shots that they get from the drone, from an FPV drone, are just cool. You know, rather than everything being static and your horizon's fixed, the drone's moving, but everything's tilting and moving, and you're flying through gaps. And yeah, it reminds me of those early days of drones where they'd never seen anything like this before. There was only helicopters, and then suddenly you were giving them a shot similar to that helicopter, and like, wow. And it's so lovely when you've got a crew just going, oh my God. I've had cameramen before, like get the hump and just go, well, I'm going home then. If he's doing all this, amazing stuff, you don't need me.
Yeah.
FPV was kind of like that, again, people are going, wow, you threw, that tiny little gap, and it gives you a bit of adrenaline, gives you a bit of a buzz. A couple of years ago, I flew through a air museum with a, priceless Spitfire.
Yeah.
Flew through the wings of a biplane, and it's just awesome fun. But that becomes a cine whoop rather than a racing drone. So you're a different, if you're chasing a drift car, you need a fast drone that's agile, that's got the speed to keep up with that stuff. If you're flying in an environment where you want a small drone with a ducted, protected prop that can sort of float through, you've seen those shots where you just sort of float through places, it's a different drone. So, I have got a lot of drones, a lot of different drones.
A lot of drones.
For a lot of different things.
Yes. I think the film I'm thinking of is I can't remember, I think it's called Ambulance. Is it the Michael Bay one? Have you seen that? Where I think he flies those goggle ones under an ambulance as it's crashing over some cars, and the shot's just incredible. And I think they invited someone down for the day, might have been a stunt pilot or something, and some of the stuff they've got out of that is just crazy, because obviously he's probably got the budget that if one gets smashed up, it's not, get another one out of the box. But yeah, some of the shots in that movie are really, really good. Really good.
Yeah. That'll be someone who's come from drone racing.
Yeah.
So I've never raced against other people. I have built courses and raced around courses at my local flying field, which is great fun. But the racing pilots are they're usually quite young.
Yeah.
Incredible reactions and instincts, and they've spent hours and hours and hours flying that drone. They're going to be, forgive me for saying this, but geeky nerds who just every day, they're flying their drone, and what they can make it do is incredible. I feel humbled when I, fly with somebody like that. I can do the tricks. I can fly. They've kind of had to learn to fly cinematically, which is different to the fastest route through a race course. So they've had to learn that, and there's some of them like Banning and a whole bunch of them which I watch on YouTube. They are really, really good, and get some amazing shots. I think the one you're talking about, didn't they use had like a skid underneath the drone so that it could actually come down and slide along?
Maybe. It was, but I just remember looking at it and thinking, wow, this is the new, and I'm surprised there's not more of it, to be honest. I'm surprised you don't, or maybe I'm just not noticing now, but I'm surprised they don't do more of that in sort of bigger action movies, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that it definitely is happening. I think, do you remember when Top Gear first did it? And they did it at they flew through the roller coaster and stuff? That was one of the first I remember seeing on TV and thinking, okay, this is coming now. Then the phone starts ringing. Can you do FPV? Yeah, what do you want? But yeah, I suppose the drawback is always the size of the camera. So, we're always using GoPros, and GoPros are good these days. But it is still a GoPro. It is still a small sensor and a small lens. So the heavy lift cine whoops now that can take, they're like shrinking down the Blackmagic Pocket 4K and stuff like that. Or I've got a Z Cam. Those all mount quite nicely on the sort of heavy lift small, but they start getting quite big craft. You have to be quite powerful to give you that same movement. But it's the weight. So a small light drone is a different movement really to a heavier cine lifter, but you get the same sort of feel, but that weight gives you the smoothness, which is quite nice. So yeah, those shots coming out. I think it's an advert, but it starts off in a hotel room, like on the 40th floor of a hotel block, and they hand hold the drone through a shot, laptop closes or something, goes out the window, and they drop it out the window. And so this shot just continues through the hotel room and out the window, drops down the side of the building, pulls out and comes alongside a car. Someone in the back of the car takes it in, films for a second inside, and then lets it go out the other window. Coolest shot. So cool. It's just like, I want to do that.
So that brings me on to something I've seen people do before, and I'm not sure if you're supposed to do this or if this is just something you have to do. So catching them on the water. Where do you stand on that? So you're
done
on
it hundreds of times.
Done it hundreds of times, and it's you're allowed to do that. You just have to know how to do it. Is that what you'd say to that?
Yes. It's safer to have somebody catching your drone. Like, I've caught the Inspire 2 and had people catch it for me a bunch of times. You don't want to have someone catching it that's never done it before, you don't work with regularly. So it's something you practice on dry land. And then when you're out on the water, it will feel safer. Usually you have catch handles. And so you can, wear protection on your face so that you're not going to lose an eye. Wear a hard hat, wear some thick gloves, thick leather, gloves, and have a plan with your drone operator. And also, I think it's quite important to have contact with your ship's captain. So a radio is ideal, because what you want them to do, you want to flick your drone out of GPS so it's not trying to hold, because when you grab hold of it, now the boat's still moving and the drone is saying, okay, well, and that's when it's going to go wrong. Hand catching, something like a Mavic 3 can't turn off that stuff, so you want them to stop the boat, or you want to grab it and flip it over. But I was out on a boat a week or two ago, and with a couple of very roughy tufty fishermen, and I briefed them and said what was going to happen, and the boat's going up and down and there's a bit of wind, and and I said to this guy, his name was Maggot, I said, if I'm struggling, if I can't catch it because I'm trying to land it, you can't two hands to control it, I'll fly it to your hand and you grab it. And he had these big banana fingers and he just snatched it out of the sky. It was great. No gloves on, no protective gear, just how it came. But it's a little Mavic, so it's a little bit different. But it's definitely not illegal.
No. Okay, that's good to know. And that brings me on to insurance, because obviously, especially filming on the water, I guess if it falls out of the sky, it's going to smash to smithereens anyway. What do you do for insurance? Is there a drone insurance company? Do you do it with a regular insurance company? What would be your advice for somebody starting out? What do they do? Just Google it?
I've been with one insurance company, Cover Drone, since 2012. And they are, I expect they insure other stuff, but they are a drone specific. I think there's Moonrock and a couple of others, just to make it fair. I'm not recommending one, but they make it very simple. You can go online and insure for one day. You can meet the requirements of your client as far as public liability is concerned. So I think this entry is 1 million. I think it's 16 million is the top now. I'm working for a client next week and they've specified 6. So okay, I think I've got to go to 10. But you've covered that requirement. And then on top of the public liability, you're also insuring the craft. I don't tend to insure the controller and the parts that are staying with me, because the way I look at it is, okay, if it gets stolen out of my car, that's quite unlikely. I'm taking it into the hotel room, otherwise it's near me. If the drone falls out of the sky, I'm still going to be left with the, you know, 2 controllers and iPads and screens and all that sort of stuff. So why am I ensuring that? I, touch wood, have never had an accident, never claimed. And that means that my insurance is still very reasonable. I do know people that have had accidents, have claimed, and the insurance premiums go up. And with the insurance company that I'm with specifically, they then remove that sort of turning on and off your insurance.
Yeah.
So it becomes more expensive overall. So you really don't want to crash and claim. You do want to be covered.
Yes. And is there any difference to them as far as the different places you're filming? So would you have to tell them it was on the water, or is it cover you for any kind of... No. Okay.
Stupidly, no. You know, it's a lot of people won't film on the water. And I always add to my invoice my quote if I'm flying over water, because it's inherently harder. I was on the Baltic Sea flying from a massive metal ship that, you know, wanted to upset the GPS. And, you know, you've got to think to yourself at the end of the day, if this all goes wrong, if it hits the side of the boat, or it doesn't come back, or it returns to home and I haven't set it to the controller, you know, there's a lot of things to think about. One of the mistakes that I made early on was my drone is set to 400 meters maximum distance. But if you think about it, you take off and you fly after a boat, and you can be half a mile away in 20 minutes, by which time your drone's hitting the end of its distance, and you return to home set from where you took off on the quayside or on the boat, or, you know, so you've really got to think about that stuff to be safe. I wouldn't suggest anyone flying from a boat until they're really, really confident and comfortable and a good operator. Flying from the shore out over the sea shouldn't really make any difference. You know, okay, yes, you can't put it down, but you shouldn't really be doing that anyway. You should be coming back long before your batteries run out. But then there's issues with wind direction. You know, if you've flown out with the wind and it's taking you out there really quickly and you get carried away and you don't think about it, then when you start to come back, it doesn't want to, you know, it's a lot more harder work to get back, and, you know, you can be running out of battery. But they're so clever, they're so easy to fly these days. It takes very little skill. You know, my kids age 7 could fly a drone quite happily, quite confidently. I would definitely recommend that anybody who is looking at flying a drone and flying it commercially, then, okay, you've got your DJI Mavic, for example, and it'll do everything for you. But I would really suggest getting a racing drone, building it from scratch, understand how it works, learn about it, and then learn to fly it in manual. So the thing will flip over, and, you know, it's hard and takes quite a bit of practice, but it will take you to another level of skill and understanding.
Thanks for listening. If you want more advice from people who are already in the industry that's going to help you with your career, then please do subscribe.